obviously in a conference game, you never expect to win with a margin like this, particularly against such a really well-coached team. I thought we played the right way for the most part. 21 assists in the game, really critical. Defensively, one of the emphasis of the game was what we call fix-it plays, that we were going to have to really make multiple efforts because they do such a good job of putting you in concepts that take advantage of good defense. And Garcia hit a couple of threes at the top of the key and it put us in a bind. But the effort was relatively consistent. And when you get in those situations where you've got a lead like that, then there's a real opportunity to start playing the game differently than what put you in that situation. And there was a real sign of maturity there. And a couple of things really stood out. Number one, Zurich asked for a sub, because he was tired, because he was playing hard, and he went into the game with a defensive mindset because he knew he had a tremendous matchup with Haggerty, and he wanted that challenge. And when he got tired, he asked for a blow, and that was impressive. And then I don't particularly care about who has what stats, but in the latter part of the game, I told Emery and Ricardo to get Chuck and Jalen. And Z said, no, coach. Let Chuck stay in. He got 9 assists. Let him get 10 assists. And I don't really care whether he gets 10 assists or not. 9 is pretty good too. But what I did like was the fact that Zurich was so adamant about that for Chuck, that he wanted Chuck to have that experience. And I think when you feel like you have a connected team, you find out when adversity strikes, or you find out in a situation like this where there's an opportunity for guys to think about themselves. And I thought tonight helped us become a little bit more connected, or at least revealed how connected maybe we are or where we're trending. And so all in all, it wasn't a perfect game, but certainly, for a conference game, you can't expect to have any more games like this. So I'm proud of these guys, and we should enjoy it.
How many conversations are you going to have with Jackson about his shot selection there at the end of the game?
No, that's a serious thing.
No, I know.
No, I didn't like that, and I said as much after the game. I love Jackson. Obviously, he's a wonderful kid, and I want those guys to have a good experience when they go in, but I also want to do things a certain way, right? And I didn't want to make a big deal out of it on the sideline, but I was bothered by it, and I said as much when we got there because he knows that. I mean, Jackson is an unbelievable guy, but I really don't like that. It's not a big deal. I'm not mad at Jackson, but I do think there's something to be said for continuing to play the game the way we practice and let things take care of themselves and let your teammates look for you, and so we're interested.
On another note, the offensive outburst tonight was great, but the defense that you guys play with day in, day out for the most part this season, how much of that is attributed to the length that you guys have out there of just being able to impact opposing teams?
Yeah, there's a lot of teams with length. It's about effort and connectivity and buy-in and 1-2 and all of those things. Not everyone who has length is good on defense, and we're striving to be really, really good. And sometimes the numbers say we had a good night when we didn't. Like Temple shot 37%, but we didn't have a great defensive performance in that game. We had some good stretches, and we had a really good stretch when it mattered most. But wire to wire, that was not one of our better nights, but the numbers say it was. But you know what you're seeing and feeling in real time. And tonight certainly was a much better effort defensively than our previous game, for sure.
With that, also, how nice was it to see them, the Temple game, big lead, then kind of dropped off and let Temple get right back into it. Never really let Tulsa get back into this one.
Yeah, we say that there's 10 rounds in the game, like a boxing match. So each 4-minute segment represents a round. So in the Temple game, and so we have one of our GAs or managers with a board, with 10 segments, and it says W or L at each timeout. And we won the first segment of the Temple game, and we lost the next 7 segments. So even though we had the lead at the end, they were winning each 4-minute segment. There's 5 in each half, and they won 7 in a row. So every time we brought that board over, we were saying L, L, L. And tonight we strung it together throughout the game, and there's a mentality behind that. It's not about the score. It's about, like, what are you doing each possession? Where's your mindset? What's the energy that you're bringing to the team, whether you're coming off the bench or you're starting? And so tonight was more representative of what we wanted to look like from a consistency and discipline standpoint.
You mentioned the job that Zurich did on both ends. What was it like for you to watch him go down? It looked from where we were sitting like there was no contact on his injury. And considering you were up 19 points at halftime, was there any consideration to giving him the second half off?
No, the only consideration was to check on his health and see if he was okay. And then from there, you start figuring things out, because 19 points ain't a lot nowadays. You guys know that. I mean, if he's as long as he's okay, fine. If he's not okay, then obviously we're going to do what's in the best interest of his health. I thought he hit knee to knee. That's what I thought I saw. And so, he was going full speed, and I know what that feels like when you hit knee to knee. So I'm just happy he was okay.
Coach, you talked about the bench a lot. Can you talk a little bit more about the consistency? This is the 7th game in a row where your bench has outscored the other team. This night it was 37-22, and it feels like you have starters on your bench. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know what? I was proud of those guys tonight because I was disappointed in them on Tuesday. I say this all the time. You look in guys' eyes when you're addressing them in the locker room, in timeouts, at halftime, and there's a certain energy. Like, it was 2 games in a row where I didn't hear Emery's voice. And he's got a consistent voice that is always saying the right things, and he goes out for the most part and does a lot of the right things. In 2 games in a row, we didn't have him. We didn't have his voice. We didn't have his energy for whatever reason. And we rely on those guys so much. Ricardo is developing into a rock-solid guy. We know he can score, but he's starting to become more of a complete player. And Jalen is really a starter. He's a starter who relinquished the role in the interest of the team, but when he's out there, he's going to play starters minutes. And Tyreek is a starting player. He's not in the starting lineup, but he's a starting caliber player, and he's productive. And so, yeah, absolutely, we have guys that are reliable. Obviously, Jaheim wasn't there tonight, but he's another guy who's a starting talent, and brings a level of toughness. And his voice is important every time out. He and Emery are the guys that, if I'm not hearing those guys, I feel like something is missing in our team. And so I agree. Our bench, the strength of our team is the team. We don't have a great margin for error. And so it is important that they all feel a part of it. And I'll say this, that I was really proud. I'm really proud of Mo. Mo's a good player and a terrific young person, and he hasn't played much. And his attitude over the last month has just been unreal. I was so happy he got an opportunity to play and have a little bit of success tonight, because he deserves it. And I'm just proud of him, because I'm not asking guys to be happy with not playing. If you're a player, you should want to play, and you shouldn't be happy about it, but you should approach it a certain way, and you should still pull for your teammates. And that's easier said than done, and he's exemplified that in a way that I'm really proud of. And I really was gratifying to see him get out there and have a chance to play tonight.
You mentioned Jaheim Hudson. He was in a boot tonight or today. Xavier Foster not in uniform. Do you have updates on either of their status?
Yeah, Xavier Foster was cleared for practice yesterday, so he's back. And Jaheim had a foot injury the night of the Temple game, and then actually went into concussion protocol. So he had a couple of things going on, and so we don't know what the timeline is for his return at this point.
You talked about Zurich's defensive attitude coming into the game, but he also had one of his better offensive nights, especially in the first half that he's had in a while. Just what you see from him, shooting the ball, 2 of 2 from 3, I think 6 of 8 from the floor to start the game.
Yeah, I've been saying it recently. When he comes into the game with a defensive mindset, and that's his focus, he's such a talented young guy that the other stuff will follow, and his teammates will follow him. There's an energy that he can bring to us defensively that I think inspires the rest of the team. And offensively, he'll stumble into 15 points if he's just focused in. But if he narrows his focus on defense, it will. And he's such a gifted athlete that when he really wants to guard somebody, man, he's special. And I think he's just starting to realize that, like, I don't have to go after the game. I can let it come, compete, invest in my teammates, and the game will slow down and things will get easier for me. And I think he played with some joy tonight. It was nice watching him.
You talked about how you and your staff track different segments of the game as rounds. Given the way those rounds stacked up for Temple the other day, how gratified are you that even when you went to the halftime with a big lead, you still got 51 points in the second half as well?
Yeah, I think what you hope is it's a sign of our growth, from one game to the next and going forward, and the general understanding of how hard it is to win in conference play. But you don't know that until you get back in the gym and you get back to work. It's tough for young people that are learning how to win together for the first time. School's starting back. There's a perception that we're much improved because people are looking at us relative to last year, and this group has nothing to do with that. This is a new team and a new group on a new journey. But you start getting a lot of messages about how great you are, and now how do you handle that? It's a great test, and I thought this game was a good example that maybe our mind is in the right place, that we didn't make it into a look at me show when we were up by a big margin, and now we got to get back in the gym and get to work because we have to play a formidable opponent on their home court, and we don't get to take 10 of these points and use them in the next game. We're going to have to play the game.
Kind of with that, it looks like UNT is on the ropes a little bit, but there's a big chunk of you guys now with just one loss at now really the top of the conference standings. How much does that put an emphasis even more on every game, but especially ones like this at a place like UNT?
Yeah, it's where we 5 games in. So with 13 games left, you really can't get into the implications of anything at this point. You just have to really take it one game at a time and hopefully position yourself where there are implications attached to games. But if you start getting too far ahead of yourself, the implications won't be good. So,
Coach, on Chuck Harris, he came here to kind of prove that he was a winner, but also a playmaker and a ball handler. And
yeah.
He's broken his career high in assists against ECU. ECU had 8, tonight he had 10. What do you see in him as far as his ability to not only score but make plays and not turn the ball over?
Well, it's always interesting when guys say, "This is what I want," and then you get with them every day and they don't really want it. They're just talking, right? And then he gets to see that I'm keeping my word. That here's the vision I have for you. Here's how we play. We can have somebody that we call a point guard, but the way we play with our guards, everyone's going to get an opportunity to handle, pass, make plays, make decisions. So I'm not making you the point guard per se, but you're going to have an opportunity to do what point guards do, handle the ball, make decisions, make plays, but I still need you to score. Right. And so he's seeing that what I described to him is true to form, and I'm seeing that he really did want what he said he wants.